Testing, testing, testing. Says it's live. Let's see if it's true. Okay, good. Audio check works out. I don't want an instant replay of last night. That was no fun. So, let's get this going here. Sorry, I'm playing with this stupid boom mic. It's kind of noisy. Alright. So I was watching Viral Beats several hours ago. Messing around with his 3 Moog devices, and it reminded me that I haven't touched my Moog little tower. I christened the Tower of Doom I put together a couple years ago. I used it once or twice for hardware jams a long time ago. Hello, Daniel. So I thought, well, the challenge is a 3-box challenge. These are 3 boxes. I haven't used them for a while, so what the hell. So I unpacked them about, I don't know, maybe an hour ago after I took a nap for a while. And I thought I would just screw around with them for a bit on here. I got a couple of things quickly dialed in, but it's not anywhere near what it's going to be so far from what I can tell for any kind of hardware jam to turn in. So DFAM, M32, subharmonicon. The brief, from what I can understand, is 3 boxes only, no extra boxes even for effects. That's what I read. So if I can't use effects, it's fine. If I could use effects and I find out after the fact I could, it's kind of annoying because these do cry out for effects, as a lot of analog stuff does. But, you know, they're still fun without it. So it won't be as dynamic as having some reverbs or delays on stuff, but it's definitely usable. So what I was doing is playing with a couple different things at each level. So like here's a basic subharmonicon setup with all the subs turned off, set to a so this is the square wave. This should be the saw wave here, VCO1. And I've turned off sequencer 2, and I'm just playing with the filter a little bit here. So this is, now you can obviously dial in this rhythm section quite a bit to get your polyrhythms and stuff, but I don't want to mess it up too much because I've already synced a bunch of it together and I've kind of decoupled it. So just show a couple things. So let's play with the envelope a little bit. So pretty basic. You can get all crazy with it if you want. Or you can, if you play with this thing enough, you can, Adam Neely did a great video on this thing where you can drive the rhythms into going so fast into audio rate that you start getting tones and in some cases chords out of it. And you can do the whole harmonic series with a series of different rhythms sped up. Is really pretty wild video. If you look up Adam Neely on YouTube, it's pretty crazy. So I've disabled the subs on here so I can start adding sub. And then you can start adding in the other sequence and start adding in its subs. Somebody's drifted a little bit. So as you know, there's 2 oscillators with 2 subs per oscillator. So technically it's, even though it's really only 2 oscillators, it sounds like 6 oscillators, which is pretty cool actually. this assigns back in. So there's still even more stuff now. And then you can switch to a pulse on oscillator 1. And what's fun is you can use the LFO of the Mother 32. Let's turn it down. And do pulse width modulation. Pull it out, go back to pulse, and then you can go back to the saw was down, that's right. Okay, so yeah, let's go, stop that one, let's go to the DFAM. I got a little rhythm thingy going on here that's kind of a dialing some crazy start. Kind of a crunchy thing there, and of course I've just got it set for a slower tempo just when I was messing around with it, but of course you can So I'll just play around with that a little bit, and of course these are all out of whack. They are synced when I plug everything in, but what I've done is normally you run a rhythm sync from the Mother 32 to the DFAM, so they're synced. And then because you only have one of those, you have to use the built-in mult on the Mother 32, and you mult out to the two different outs with mult 1 and mult 2 outputs. You can see the outputs have kind of this white highlight on the text, so you know it's an output, not an input. Everyone's got a different system. Some guys put boxes around stuff. Some guys put just a highlight section. Technically it's a box, but it looks just like a white highlight. So now these are multed, so when I push this in and I push this in, even though I have Mode 32 turned down so you don't hear it, now these will go with the tempo I was messing with earlier to start making a little track with it. So let's see, these are synced. Turn you up a little bit. See, the tempo now does nothing, and this tempo now does nothing as well, because now they're synced to the Mother 32 clock. And this is pretty slow for the have to double check the sequences that I started playing with. Let's see how they turn out now. I'm going to start bringing those in. Bringing that pulse width in again. Crank this thing up a little bit. Different sequence. There's another ratchet that I got a little goofed up here, let's see. DFAM not having a reset. I mean, you can always manually do it, of course, it's just no fun, but you know, I was also doing manual triggers too, which is fun, like this. Gotta time it right while it's still triggering the I haven't goofed around with this thing. Come up a little. Drop it there, or drop it on a drum, another high drum beat. So yeah, fun stuff. Just gonna play with this for a little bit longer, and then before I go back to sleep. I gotta record. I gotta make some more tweaks and record this for the hardware jams thing, but got some more stuff to do. But we'll see how far I take it. But that's the nice thing about these, you know, unlike a modular, it would have a lot more switches and other kinds of stuff where you can add modules with switches like DivKid's little device to do all that stuff, mutes and sequential switches, like dev for sequential switch, things like that. Is, you know, you can make this a little more clean looking, but you know, these are easily just switches. Just pull the one out you don't want, or actually pull out the master, and none of them will get the clock. So that works pretty well. So it's nice that they included mults, but because of limited space on here, because of all the modulation options and some of the weird stuff here on the DFAM, they didn't really give you exactly, like, you have mults here and you have some other stuff here, but they didn't quite copy some of the functions across all of them. So it's okay if you have them all, then you can, and of course the newer ones, which I don't have yet, but it's kind of nice to have some kind of workflow. Since M32, I think, was the first one they released, and so I guess they decided this will be the master, since it's got a keyboard, it's got the sequencer set up here. Let's just go ahead and add some mults, and you can start controlling it as a control station. But you should be able to do the same with the DFAM as well, since rhythms often drive a piece. Or you could just do rhythm sounds in the M32 as well. So there's no reason why this has to be melodic. So yeah, they give you some other options. I think that's why some people got 2 DFAMs in the beginning. So that this like a DFAM down here. So you'd have 2 DFAMs and then the other stuff to get like a 4 stack before the other ones ever even were mentioned or ever came out. So you can use DFAM for percussion, DFAM for melodic stuff. But yeah, they can pretty. I got 2 of these used and one of them new, because you know they are expensive. I know the Behringer ones are popular as they're copying these and coming out with stuff, but I mean, they have a lot of the same functionality. They added some extra things as well, maybe some pain points people had, and they listened to customers and added some stuff, which is cool. But I don't know. I suppose they sound similar. I haven't done a comparison with them, but it's nice to get some real Moog stuff to play with. I like the aesthetic. I like the build quality. They're very sturdy, which is part of the reason why they're not so cheap. Also, Moog just, you know, has cachet. You know, when you mention Moog, it's like saying Sony. So of course they're going to cost more than some other stuff. You can buy a Sony TV like a Bravia, and compared to like a Samsung or even the newer LGs, which are pretty good, they're not going to 100% hold up across the board as you compare them. But Sony clearly adds cost to their stuff just because of their reputation, on top of, you know, having good quality stuff as well. But then you read online, there are a bunch of Sonys that came out with DOAs and dying within the first month and stuff like that. So their QC might be not as good as it used to be. Who knows? Just some separate incidents that hard to get a pattern unless you really study it. But long and short is nice to have Moog and support them. Of course, I bought these well before they sold the company, when they were still just normal old Moog. And they're still making some new stuff that's pretty good. Labyrinth is interesting. I'm not too sure about the vocoder one. Drawing a blank on the name right now, but that's what Viral Beats was playing in his earlier. This subharmonicon is very clever because it just combines two bizarre older synthesizers in one little module. So it's kind of fun, actually. Can do some pretty wild stuff with it. And actually, just this by itself, when you dial in all the modulation sources, either from an external Eurorack or just clever patching between its own little sections, you can actually do quite a bit, surprisingly. Yeah, if you have just modules to go with it, I mean, they're all Eurorack friendly, right? So there's no saying you have to get just these modules and do what you have to do with them. But it is nice to have them in a little compact thing. I mean, this is just a solid piece. I could just unplug everything, toss it in this drum bag. I have a giant snare drum bag for it, so it's padded. And then I keep all the components for the different stuff in these labeled bags. So I keep the stuff that came with them separately. Although they're mostly the same cables, I just was keeping track of them. Plus, I one of the fun things I did a while back, as I like to do, is I added battery packs to the config. So I found a nice little battery packs online that match the spec of these guys, and just got them on Amazon. So they're not your normal USB power bank. These little guys have a nice little switch, and so it's basically plug and play. Wire goes right into this, into the back of this guy without thinking about it. I don't have to set any switches. I don't do whatever. The specs totally match the power supplies that these came with. And it comes with a charger as well. So I have a whole little. This is now a mobile system as well because it's in the drum bag. I've got batteries for it. I've got all the cables together, etc., etc. And then I can also have like some portable effects units with it, like the Korg Mini KP, the little red one, and use that for delays, reverbs, whatever. And some other little small, battery-operated effects units. Throw them also in the bag, and you just set this up anywhere. Because I got battery packs, I've got all my cables. You can go on any damn park bench or picnic table or top of a car, whatever the hell you want, and have fun with it. So I'm making a mobile system, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, I don't know if I'll get the other three or not. They also had the Mavis, which was the off one. It wasn't this form factor. It was slightly different, so it didn't fit in this form factor. So a couple of other ones look pretty good, but I haven't decided yet if I'm going to get more of them or not yet. And of course, there's the Godfather. Those Italian guys made the Godfather. That's the same form factor as this for looping and effects and stuff. It's really nice, but it's more expensive than each one of these is. I think it's like $1,000, roughly, something like that. I don't know. I saw them on some stuff, some super booth coverage, and a couple other things. I don't know if they made it to NAMM. I don't think I've not seen them at NAMM that I can remember, but they might have been there. I just forgot. But that would be nice for this because, like I said, it's crying out for effects, and using any old effects is cool. But it's really nice to have something kind of made for it and built to exploit stuff that's already here and giving it the stuff you want, the certain types of delays, certain types of reverbs and stuff. Hey, Matt, how's it going? So that would be a nice option. So like the Godfather and maybe the Labyrinth. So you get the funky sequencer part of it because this is a decent sequencer. You can do basically 16 steps with it, I believe. By default, it's 8, but there's a setting where you can make it jump to a second. There's actually 2 LEDs right here that change color, the green LEDs. And then you have your 8 steps here. And here I did ratcheting, so it's kind of cool that they added ratcheting because my depth for dark time, which is literally built to be like a Berlin school style sequencer for modular or MIDI. It doesn't do ratcheting without a third-party module. I'm like, come on, man. You have to use another DFAM module to do ratcheting? So that's why I got Makeshifters GP82, was to help him beta test that, because it looked right up my alley. Just the ratcheting alone was worth it. But he has some other cool stuff, the Bernoulli gates and some other fun, unusual stuff for modular that you find in certain kinds of modules here and there. So anyway, that's the cool thing about that is you don't have to stick with these form factors. You can get other modular stuff, like you said, to augment them. But the Godfather does look cool, and the Labyrinth looks pretty good as well. Again, the Mavis is a weird size. The Spectravox vocoder thingy, I kind of have a lot of vocoders already. And it's interesting. It's also pretty gnarly at times too, so it can go in some pretty wild directions. So I'm not sure about that one yet. I mean, it's definitely cool, but I don't know if I would drop that much money on that if I would not use it as much as some other stuff I have that does similar tasks. So, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't have the money to buy them anyway, so it doesn't really matter at this point. But given the choice, I think the Godfather would be cool. It's just so expensive. I think it's about $900,000, something like that. It's really well built. It has a lot of features, so I totally get. And they're also in this ballpark of the Moog aesthetic and well built, sturdy kind of stuff. So they're going to charge you appropriately. They're not going to charge you a Behringer price. Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. But quite often this is kind of a setup I do on here. You can patch it obviously much more than this, but a lot of times I'll have a bunch of spare leads because I only patch it to a certain extent for a certain task. Also, haven't figured out the best way to use some of these, although you can go off the rails with them if you spend enough time on it and monkey around with it. But like I said, this thing's been in a bag for a while, so I need to spend more time with it so I can actually be more automatic with it. I've spent way more time with my Eurorack system than this, although this is Eurorack compatible. I don't use it that much. But this is a good excuse to use it. It's for the hardware jams. So people who came in late, I'll just run through real quick what I was doing. Let me just decouple. Oops. Decouple all of the syncs. So I don't care about the rhythm sync right now. And I was just coming up with patterns on them individually. I got a few accented steps here, so you get the big. More in kind of an 808 kind of mode. Like the big crunchy booms on this one. This is nice. So you get that going, and then you go down the subharmonicon. Come up with a little. This pulse width modulation option here with this oscillator, and then you send an LFO to it, and it gets crunchy. Tweak the LFO here a little bit from the Mother 32. turn all the subs down. Just have the built-in. Add the second part. And then the Mother 32 patterns. I'll get them all synced up. Oops. Yeah, get the rough idea. Sorry for those who already set it up before. It's the same old shit over and over again. I'm just fiddling around with it. Yeah, Moog Frogers and Eurorack. I missed my chance to get Moog Frogers when they were like $350, $400 each. New. And not long after that, they shot up. So I should have bought like a 4-pack. Because, right not long after that, it was like, the price of 3 for 1, basically. And crazier now than that because they got so rare. Since they don't make them anymore. Even the mini Fogers, they stopped making those, I'm pretty sure, as well. So, the nice thing is, we talk about this all the time in PSN and the pub and everything else, but as much as I love hardware, it won't last forever. It needs to be repaired at some point or replaced. Components become rare. Kent's having trouble fixing CS80s going forward because certain parts are just basically like hen's teeth. You just can't find them, and it's going to be ugly. So, at the end of the day, for longevity, VSTs actually save the day because computers will be around for a hell of a long time, and even when they change operating systems and other things, as long as there's some compatible emulation or virtual technology like VMware, stuff like that. You can virtualize anything, then you can run your VSTs in a decent computer with a decent audio path, and the plugins are made so well, it basically replaces the hardware. So I have so much hardware. I clearly love hardware, the tactile nature and everything else. But sadly, the software is going to be the saving grace for these famous machines, look and feel and sound and stuff like that, because those will be around for a hell of a long time with emulation and virtualization, and the hardware will just disappear. I mean, the people keep making it and stuff, but it won't ever sound quite the same because components will be different, and designers will be different, and tolerances will be different, and everything ages differently. So they all, even a Prophet 5 from the 70s is not going to sound just like another Prophet 5 from the 70s, because it's got different issues with age and use and stuff. So, yeah. Who would have thought that software would end up being the winner in the end? Time will tell, obviously, but that looks like the way it's going to go 20, 30 years from now. A lot of this hardware won't be working or fixable, and you'll have your emulations to thank. So I have Moog on my iPad. You can also get it on your Mac and PC as well, but it's so cool they released it for iOS, and I can easily route stuff through there, and that will be a portable Moog setup through like AUM or something like that. And I could run these through AUM in and out, and you get your Moog, and they're tactile. It's touchscreen, multi-touch. You don't actually feel the knobs and the switches, but so what? It's still very, very controllable and skeuomorphic, so it looks like it. So you feel kind of cool using the stuff that it's designed after, and it's made by Moog, so it's real quality stuff, And it was cheap as hell. I mean, I got the bundle, so you buy them individually, it adds up pretty quickly. But the bundle was really, really cheap. Got it on sale whenever they had a big sale on it. So I highly recommend that if you have, even on iPhone. I mean, I have them on my iPhone as well. You need an audio interface for your iPhone. The camera connection kit to some kind of USB thing, like those little Behringer. These little cheap guys actually sound pretty decent. Unfortunately, it's got RCA jacks, so you have to use RCA cables converted to something else. But it's got your standard USB-A, goes into the camera connection kit, and you can use this as an interface. The one I'm using right now is on my phone to do this stream, which I had trouble with last night because I moved the phone, which is a bad idea, and it got slightly out of whack, and I didn't notice it. I wasn't watching the chat that closely. They're like, hey, there's no sound, or it's all like garbled. And all I had to do was jiggle it. It was just not, it had unseated from the phone slightly because it's a lightning port thingy. And anyway, as long as you set it and don't touch it, it works great. And it's super portable. It goes in your pocket. So it's even smaller than this one. It's like, it's about that big compared to this one, which is almost the size of a cassette tape. But this is like $25 or whatever. So, carry a small bag with a bunch of cables and accessories in it, and you have your mobile set up. So, hello, Boba Bailey. I don't think I've seen you here before. Hope I said that right. And yeah, this is very Devo sounding. They love their Moogs on almost all their old performances. The great pictures and films of them hanging out with Bob Moog and stuff somewhere, some event. And they were also nerds, so they like to modify their stuff. They would also do like, gluing guitar pedals to their guitars and having wires hanging everywhere and stuff. So they're very fun as that kind of nerdy punk rock mix with like electronics and new wave mixed with punk, mixed with crazy synthesizer sounds. Devo's a classic. I finally got to see them live just before they broke up. it was that they had the easy listening disc, which is all their like easy listening versions of their classics, and then they had the one with oh man, it's so forgettable. I don't remember the name of the thing, but that was the tour they went on, their last album tour. It has a blue cover. It's had a totally different lineup except for I think 3 of the original guys. I think one of the Bobs dropped out because there's Mark Mothersbaugh, there's Bob Mothersbaugh, there's Jerry Casale, Bob Casale, and then I always forget who the drummer guy is. It's different albums. I think what was it called? Oh no, it's Devo or something like that. I forgot. But yeah, it was all more poppy, modern versions of a Devo sound with songs that really weren't that great. But it's Devo, so I had to go see them play in San Francisco, and they play at the Warfield West, because there's a Warfield East, back east, and there's a Warfield West. Not Warfield, Fillmore East and Fillmore West. They played the Fillmore in San Francisco, and it's a pretty small venue, even though it's super famous. A lot of bands played there in the 60s and 70s and stuff. But it's just, yeah, it's not that big, and so it's really easy to fill it. So it gets lively and crazy, and at one point, Mark comes out as Bougie Boy with the mask on and is like hanging off the parapets up on the wall, and he had gone through the back door and gone up to the top and just put on a crazy ass show. It was a lot of fun. They played a lot of their classics, thank goodness. But the new stuff I wasn't into, but it's just fun to go see them. And then not long after that, they disbanded. And Mark has his own like production companies and stuff. He was still doing soundtracks, like the Pee-wee's Playhouse stuff and some movie soundtracks and TV shows, I think. And then he also had this company, Mutato Music, making sound packs and stuff for basically for apps. They have a couple apps out there. One they didn't make. It was called iSample. It's actually a really cool little, like an iPhone version of an SP404. But the buttons actually had the pads had multiple functions on them. You could easily quickly change them from gated to trigger, where it just basically plays the whole sound and then stops. And there's one other mode, I think, for each pad. And you can just quickly play those as you will, as you're playing them live, without having to go edit any settings or whatever. It's really clever. And they had built-in recording, multi-track recording, and really easy to sample into it or load your samples into it the modern way that people don't really sample much anymore. And I've used that for a couple tracks with my friend many years ago. And then, like with most things iOS, the developer kind of stopped supporting it. And something changed on the OS, and it would fire up and then crash. So I couldn't use it anymore unless I picked up my old iPod or something like that. Might be able to play it still. But it was a really cool app because it was super easy. It was super feature filled, and it came with Mutato Music sound packs in it. Really, really good sound packs from Mark Mothersbaugh. So that was fun for a while it lasted anyway. But cool guy, does a lot of interesting stuff. Okay, cool, Bob. Thanks for dropping by. And sorry, I know this is a Cyrillic, a Russian name here. I never know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry. I know you show up a lot in like Ramsey and some other stuff. So if you can tell me how to pronounce it in the chat, I will gladly do it correctly. I don't want to butcher it right now. Try to attempt it. Zastruga. Ah, cool. Very nice. Thank you. So yeah, that was I'd been on for a little while. It's kind of a quick and dirty thing. I've been on for almost 50 minutes. I was going to make this super long. I was on for like 2.5 hours last night, and unfortunately, a good 20 to 30 minutes of it. It was goofed up in the beginning because I bumped my phone and messed up the audio interface. And guys were like, "Go fix it, fix it, fix it." And I'm sitting there and check this out and check this out. And I finally looked over and I go, "Oh shit! Half the chat is yelling at me for 10, 15 minutes. The audio was bad." So that was just me being stupid. I should have checked on that. So what I ended up doing is I was able to demo the Ribbon controller and the Mini Nova until I got into some iOS stuff. And then I went back and in the notes I put in the show notes, as well as a note in the comments to people to look at the show notes, just to show some of the stuff I actually mentioned, the different types of ribbons out there, like the history of ribbon controllers and what was different about them. And a really short list, you know. I elaborated more when I spoke about it, but it's essentially what I had talked about in the beginning of the thing as I was starting to demo the ribbon. And all you missed with the audio part was just me demoing some of the easy settings in there with like a really basic pitch bender and a modulation thing for doing vibrato and a couple other things. I mean, by the time you can hear my audio, I'm doing like really weird stuff with the ribbon. So that's kind of all you missed with the audio part. So the chat room was very lively. So if you go back and watch the chat in the first 30 minutes of the show, whatever, you can see me pantomiming and you can see the chat. So then the thing finally is a normal show. So I checked this one twice tonight just to make sure it's still going, and you guys haven't complained yet. So as long as I don't touch the thing, the interface will be fine. So, no, thanks, Matt. It was fun. I wish I didn't screw up the beginning of it. It'd be even cooler stream. And a bunch of people yelling at me because I look like an idiot not watching my own chat. Because it's so funny. I go on a lot of different shows. Friends have movie podcasts and other kinds of stuff, and quite often, if I'm not a guest, I'm just watching as a moderator or something like that. And like this guy will start the show, and then he doesn't know his audio is bad. And we're all going, mute, audio, something, what's going on with your audio, and he just keeps going and going and going, and you're like, and then finally he catches it, but at least he catches it like the first 5-10 minutes. Yeah, I didn't catch it because I was sitting there fiddling with stuff. I didn't catch it for only 20-30 minutes because I did test it before I started. I just forgot. If you watch the video again, it's in the first 3 minutes, I think, you see me go, oh, this camera's wrong, and I'm readjusting this thing. And then I bumped the interface, and then here I go, and then it was screwed up for the rest of the time until I went and fixed it again. So when I moved the camera, I should have known to check the audio real quick, just because the lightning connection is it's pretty sturdy on a small cable, but this interface sticking out of it is kind of chunky. It's not that heavy, but it's, you know, it's big enough where you just kind of bump it, and the lightning pins slightly get out of alignment, and it kills the audio. So I should have known better, but lessons learned. But yeah, I'll do another ribbon thing one of these days. I'll do a comparison with the stuff I already showed, the depth for ribbon, the Kurzweiler expression mate, and I'll do the Hydrasynth. I don't have that much else that have ribbons on it, except for the little small ribbons I mentioned in the show notes, and the part you couldn't hear me talk about, where Yamaha and Roland on several other synths have these little tiny ribbons for little modulation stuff over on the left side of the keyboard. And they're very cool because they're super expressive, and they don't take up a lot of space, and they give you some features that you could use. So like if the pitch bend and mod is mapped to the standard, you know, modulation, vibrato, and pitch, then the ribbon's like a filter cutoff. So it just gives you that extra functionality, which is really cool. The Montage M8X improved upon the Montage ribbon by making it a 3-step ribbon, just like the big ribbon I played with last night from Kurzweil has 3 zones if you choose to map to 3 zones instead of 1 big zone. So they have in a small ribbon, same idea, little markings on it, and they have some zones, so you can get different things as you run across the ribbon, which is kind of clever. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of ribbons. I mean, obviously CS80 is the big famous one everyone loves, talking about the CS80 ribbon. Kent plays it a lot. But there are plenty of other things that have it. But it's nice to be able to have a ribbon that you can just add on to other stuff. It wasn't built in. You just keep using it over MIDI control. And I also mentioned it. It also got messed up with the audio, but I did type it in the chat, in the show notes, where I actually made a homemade ribbon once based on some video I saw. Because I had the Teenage Engineering Op Lab. It's a thing about that big. There's no top on it. It's just a bunch of jacks and switches and stuff. And it has MIDI, in, out, CV gate, sync, and a couple other things on there. And it's designed to be the little hub for hooking all your stuff together. So you're going to hook up your analog, your digital, your like DIN sync stuff for TB303, all that kind of stuff. And these guys said, hey, if you're industrious enough, try making a ribbon controller to control your op lab. I said, that's a cool idea. So I read some little thing about it, and I went and made my own. You just take a long strip of paper, you scribble the hell with some pencils to make a nice carbon path, very, very heavy carbon path. And then you, on that piece of paper, you, on either side of it, you put some double-sided sticky tape, the foam tape, to give a space on either side, and you have this channel where the graphite is. And then you put a piece of metal tape. You can buy, I worked at Nikon for a while. It was like a stepper scanner division of Nikon, not the camera division. So the company makes all the wafers. The machines that go to Intel make wafers and stuff. And so they had all kinds of weird stuff on site. And the guy gave me a roll of metal tape one time. Just, hey, what you got extra? You want it? I said, hey, this is perfect timing. I need metal tape. And so I laid that across the top, and then the gap would keep the metal from touching the graphite until you pushed on the channel and ran your finger up and down the channel. And the foam would make the tape go back up. And the graphite wouldn't stick to the tape because it's graphite. But so it worked really well. And you just had a alligator clip for the metal, alligator clip for the right side of the graphite, alligator clip for the left side of the graphite. So 3 alligator clip leads going off this homemade thing. I did it on a piece of wood, and then I ran that to the op lab, and it made this great little ribbon controller for $5 in parts or something like that, or less. And it's homemade crap, but you wouldn't take it on stage or on tour or whatever. But so I always like that kind of stuff, and so it's nice when you could buy one that's. Now there are a bunch of companies that make. Kent has the EO Wave one, and I had the Deptford one for the modulars. Hooks with the Trautonium module, what they have for Eurorack. You saw the Expression Mate one, and there's a handful of other ones out there you can get. Someone even made a recent synth. I saw it on Matrix Synth last year, or maybe like half a year ago. That actually is based on a ribbon controller. There's no keyboard on the synth. It's designed around a ribbon. So kind of like the On Martineau, where it's a keyboard with a wire that acts like a ribbon. This is just a ribbon controller. There is no keyboard on it at all. It's modern, but it looks retro, the way they designed it. It's analog, which is pretty cool. And of course you have the original Good Vibrations wired theremin called the Tannerin, named after this guy Tanner who invented it. And you can see it on the video for Beach Boys' Good Vibrations. He's playing it, woo, and it's like an On Martineau on a block of wood or whatever, without the ring. You're just using your finger, and because it's also triggering. It's like CV gate at the same time. It's doing the notes as well as the modulation, and that's one of the modes in the Kurzweil. I call it a Tannerin mode, so you can actually go around on the ribbon and just play it just like you do. There's a mode on the Hydrosynth that does the same thing. And the cool thing about the Hydrosynth 49 is the ribbon matches perfectly with the key bed. And it's synced, so when you hit the right spot on the ribbon above the key, it's the exact note. So you can play it that way and then slide around that way. The Hydrocent Deluxe, they didn't make a super long ribbon. They used the same ribbon that was on the 49. So it doesn't line up with the keys at all, because it's a much longer key bed. So I like the fact that it lines up. That's one of the reasons I didn't get the Deluxe. I mean, the 2-voice thing is cool, and the weighted keys are nice and all that stuff, but I already had a 49. It was good enough, and the Deluxe is quite big as well. So I didn't worry about upgrading or getting rid of one and getting the other one. So ribbons, good stuff. I'll revisit that sometime. But you kind of already seen all this stuff here. I'm just yakking at this point. So it's probably been about an hour now. Yeah, almost exactly an hour. So thanks for coming, guys. You guys have any questions or anything you want to ask about this silly setup while I'm here? Otherwise, I will do it another time as well. This is just a silly thing for hardware jams because I didn't have anything planned. And it is a 3-box jam, and here you got 3 boxes. And it has noise sources in it. It's supposed to be a noisy 3-box jam. So, like Viral Beats was saying earlier when I was watching them, it's like just perfectly matched for the challenge. Noisy boxes. Although they can be clean and pretty sounding, they could be gnarly like this guy. Quite crunchy and thumpy. So yeah, good stuff. Kurzweil USB. No, I was talking about the. If you watch my stream from last night, just watch the note that mentions the audio issue in the beginning, but it does get better later. It was a standalone box called the Kurzweil Expression Mate. And it's a little box that not only handles ribbon duties from this ribbon you connect to it, but it also has a built-in arpeggiator and some other features on it. And it just connects via, it came out when USB was not common in music instruments. So it's just DIN 5 MIDI to whatever you want to connect it to. And then, of course, you could do USB if you wanted to, just a MIDI interface to your computer, and then use it that way if you want to. But doesn't do USB built in. It has switch jacks for foot switches, and it has a dual MIDI bus, so in, out, through, and an in and out for a second bus. And a couple, I think it might have a breath controller jack in the back, which is pretty cool, because at the time Yamaha was the only guy doing that. So if you bought a DX7 Mark II, a DX100, and several other things in that time period, they came with a breath controller jack. Even the keytar, the KX5 little keytar thing, has a breath controller jack on it, so you can add all that expression with your breath. Like volume control, pitch control, however you map it, and you get some pretty damn expressive stuff out of those. It's pretty fun. So even a company like Kurzweil was doing that for a while, even though it was non-standard for most guys outside of Yamaha to give you a breath controller jack. So, and you can also add it. All these cool third-party things. You don't need to have something with a built-in jack. You can go to MIDI Solutions. It makes a lot of cool MIDI boxes that are MIDI powered for the most part. You don't have to plug them into anything. And they make a box. They make through boxes, and they make, foot switch boxes, foot switch to MIDI, and expression pedal to MIDI. And they also make a breath controller box. And you just have to provide the breath controller from Yamaha, the mouthpiece. There's a Mark I, the Mark II, and there might be a third one, I think. One of them, you have it kind of wrapped around your ear like a headset, and you put the mouthpiece in your mouth, so it's hands-free. The other one you literally just put in your mouth. Looks like, it makes you look like Tweaky. Have you ever watched Buck Rogers? Tweaky's got that weird, like, round thing in his mouth. It's supposed to be his speaker. If you put the BC1 in your mouth, you look like Tweaky with this thing sticking out of your mouth. And it's not as nice as the later ones. The BC1 is pretty cheap. Doesn't give you a lot of feedback. If you use breath controllers at all and wind controllers, you know what I'm talking about. There's supposed to be some kind of back pressure. Otherwise, it just feels weird. The BC1 didn't have a lot of back pressure on it. So it just, someone standing next to you just hears this, and you don't feel a lot of back pressure. So it's weird when you use it. It's until you dial it in right, you don't even know if it's going to work. Whereas I tried a BC2 at one point. I can't remember if it was broken or I just had trouble getting it to sync. And it had so much back pressure that you can actually dial it in till it actually closes. And you can blow in and out, and you can feel a diaphragm in there going back and forth with your breath pressure. So that one has a lot more feel to it than the BC1, which is just a box with, you know, an air channel in it and not much to push back on. But it matters. I mean, if you're, I used to play brass when I was a kid, and a little bit of flute stuff and all that. And, you know, even a little cheapy, like recorder song flute kind of thing has back pressure on it. Not much, but it has some, because that's, you know, it's the nature of the instrument. And also you tell how much more breath you have to get it to get to a certain level, to volume, or to get overblow, things like that. Even the wind controllers, like my Silphio thing that I use, it has, you know, an air path in there. And unlike other wind controllers, they figured out, different people are going to approach this thing that come from different types of instruments. They want to play a saxophone, they want to play a flute, they want to play something else that's, you know, a wind instrument of some kind. They all have different amounts of back pressure based on the piping involved and valves and all kinds of other stuff happening there. So they were very clever when they designed this thing, and they sold a little small pack of plugs to plug the hole, and they were 3D printed plugs, and they each was designed to mimic the back pressure of a specific instrument. So if you're a sax player, you stick in the plug for the sax. If you're a flute player, you stick in the plug for the flute, and you get a more realistic back pressure to simulate that instrument. And I think I put the flute in mine. Maybe it was the sax, I can't remember. But I mean, it quickly reminds you that, you have to control your breath really well, because as you're playing this little MIDI control, you can get out of breath if you're not used to playing wind instruments anymore, or never played them before. It's a fair amount of lung power you need and stamina to get that going. So I'm like, you know, huffing and puffing sometimes playing that stupid thing, because I'm just blowing out too much air. You're supposed to just blow enough to get it to go and make your air last, because you get tired playing that wind control if you don't play it right, just like you would on a real instrument. So it's cool that they give you that, but it also makes it that much harder to play if you're trying to come from like almost no experience. But again, it's all these things you're trying to do, like we're talking about VSTs and needing control surfaces because they don't have all this cool stuff. So you can have all the software on the screen, it looks just like it on the software, but you're not touching anything, and it's not laid out in front of you to tweak stuff. So you have to buy the dedicated controller that looks like it, or you have to buy a generic controller, put your own labels on it, and just figure out a new mapping scheme, because it's not going to look anything like this. And same with the wind stuff. If you wanted to simulate a wind instrument, you got to have some kind of experience that makes you feel like you're actually playing something, instead of just a tube where it just goes and the air goes right through it. It's kind of funny. So I was just yakking for a while, all kinds of stuff, blah, 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 blah. So that probably will do it. No one has any questions or other weird stuff to point out about this gear or something similar? Otherwise, it's very, very late for me. I got a nap, but now it's like still 5 a.m. here, so I gotta go back to sleep for a while to try to have a semi-normal day. But I want to just get this out of the way, show people some stuff I haven't used for a while, and also help me kind of figure out what I'm going to do for this hardware jam thing. So It's not going to be one of my favorites. I'm already just finding the limitations of this and the time I have to come up with something that I want to make. And because they've severely limited to a 3-box challenge and this has no built-in effects, I don't think we're allowed to use effects on this. I don't want to assume and say you shouldn't have used effects or whatever. So if I could use effects, I'd be much happier because I could put some delays on some stuff, a little bit of reverb, and it would sound a whole lot cooler. But this is what it's going to sound like, so it is what it is. So, but it's just fun. It's fun to get the gear out, play with it, and remember some stuff. I nicknamed this the Tower of Doom. This is the first 3 units they had on the market. Now they have, I think 2, 3 more. Plus the ones that don't fit, like the Mavis, and the third-party stuff like the Godfather effects, which I already talked about earlier. So they have a decent amount of stuff in the line. What's cool also, too, so people who wanted to put these in their Euro racks, because this will come out of this little boat structure, 3 individual little boat structures, they call it. And boats are just sitting around. And so Suit and Tie guy, who kind of stopped making Eurorack for a while, went back to doing the 5U format. It's his favorite format for the Moog style stuff for his gear. He was taking these boats from Moog or from users who weren't using them anymore and building his custom module setups into this. So he has he made a system called Radiophonic 1, which has a VCS3 filter in it called Sea Devils. It has some really wild envelope generator, some other kinds of stuff that's really, really cool. And he put them in this Moog boat, and they fit perfectly. I think there's like a little space at the end, maybe for one more thing, if you want to put a small module in it. But he was selling those, and I was able to pick one of those up a while back before he stopped making them. It was like a closeout sale at Noisebug in Pomona, and I think it was a Black Friday thing 2 years ago. They were getting rid of stuff, which I just ordered because I couldn't normally afford the price of his Radiophonic 1 as much as I wanted to get one. And I always wanted to buy some of his stuff. He's a cool guy and makes interesting gadgets, and I've learned a lot of stuff from his videos. He had a really cool video in Modular of coming up with how they did the Tangerine Dream Love on a Real Train track from Risky Business. He made it in his 5U modular system based on what he knows about the band, what he knows about the gear that they had, and just the stuff that kind of made sense. And I watched this video and go, oh, that's how they did that. So made me want to go make my own cover of it. So I did it on a JDXI a couple years ago. It's on my channel, along with some other covers. I don't do a lot of covers. I mostly do my own stuff. But certain, like Ennio Morricone or John Carpenter, Fabio Frizzi, the Italian horror guy, and some other stuff I really like to do. I think Giorgio Moroder's on there as well. I think I already said that. And I made a Love on a Real Train cover. But it needed so many parts. The 4-part JDXI wasn't enough. You can actually, if you tweak the JDXI sufficiently with some clever tricks and making the sequence play longer, playing with the time signature, playing with some other settings, resolution settings inside the synth, you can actually make these much more detailed, longer sequences with only, it's 16 steps times 4, essentially, maximum. But out of the box, the default, you run out of, it goes too fast. Even if you slow the tempo down, you only have so many note events you can use, the resolution of it. But there's a trick in there where you can actually get more resolution out of it. And so I was able to come up with that. And then because you're doing that trick already, Woody Piano Shack had a really cool video how to do this on his JDXI. And because you can play certain sounds, either supernatural sounds or other sounds on the keyboard, at a higher area of the keyboard versus the lower area of the keyboard, the sounds can differ quite a bit. So you can technically play on a different set of the sequencer buttons some different notes in some of the passages, and it sounds like you're adding more tracks because the instruments sound different enough at different registers to do that. So I was able to get basically 6 parts out of a 4-part sequencer by doing tricks like that. You couldn't do it with the analog circuit, obviously, because it doesn't change that much when it goes up and down. But for the digital ones, there's an analog synth path, there's a rhythm section, and then 2 digital ones, which could be supernatural sounds or kind of VA kind of sounds, stuff like that. So you get 6 parts out of it, but it's still not enough. I needed another, I think, 3 or 4 parts to even come close to getting how that song works. So I had my MC101 set up next to it, and I was changing sequences while I was firing off pads on the MC101. Had a few sequences there timed, but I also had a few triggers I had to hit live because they're more like events, like a some kind of a whoosh sound or some kind of a, like an like a choir sound or whatever. And it was just easier to play that live along with the thing while it was playing on the JDXI. But it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot of stuff. Sadly, when I got burgled by those assholes, they took my JDXI with that project and a bunch of other unfinished projects on there that I was going to do a Blade Runner End Titles track, and it was probably about 40% done, maybe 60% done. And all I had to do was get a few more sounds in the MC101, and then it's gone with my stuff in there. So it's like, oh well, so much for that project. So that's the problem with that is those kind of devices, because you could back it up to a computer, but it really has to be put back into the same thing to work the way you designed it to play. So I lost my content along with the gear, but even if I had backed it up, I still have to get another JDXI and still have to load it, hope that actually translates okay and doesn't get all goofed up. So it's so much easier if you can just leave it on the gear and just keep using it over time until you fill it up and have to figure out what you're going to do with it. Yeah, I'm just nitpicking at this point. So, hello, Alejandro. Anyway, so I don't want to replay a bunch of stuff I already played. I played a couple segments 2 or 3 times for people coming and going, but it's getting technically late for me anyway. I need to go back to sleep for a few hours. I took a nap just so I could pull this stuff out and have some fun with it. But I wasn't sure if I was going to do it. And then, like I was saying, I saw Viral Beats doing some stuff with his. And I go, that's a great idea. I really should bring it out, play with it a little bit. So I'm going to probably go to sleep for a while, wake up in a few hours, and then record whatever I got to do for hardware jams with this silly thing, and do some other stuff on another stream coming up with some effects and other stuff. I'm just limited by the challenge. You're supposed to just use the 3 boxes and no extra boxes, including effects as far as I read it. So it's just not as dynamic. I mean, this is pretty punchy, crunchy, pretty fun. And I have an okay patch set up on the subharmonica. It's not amazing. It's just something quick I whipped up together. And again, the same with the M32. It's not an amazing patch really. But well, I turned that one down, didn't I? Got messed with the pulsive modulation here. So, those are pretty basic things, not too fancy. But obviously with delays, that would be so much cooler. And with reverbs on some of the stuff, it would be nicer. But Challenge won't allow it, from what I read, if I read it correctly. So, that will do it. Hey, reconsider it. What's up? So yeah, it's sorry for the latecomers, but ready to shut down here. Getting sleepy again. But please watch the beginning of it. See the me yakking about why I was doing this way, and some other stuff I did in the past with this guy. I have some videos of this system. It's pretty fun little system, actually. And as I mentioned earlier, because I'm a portable gear guy a lot, I found specific battery packs that work with each of these modules, and I put Velcro on them so I can Velcro them to the back of each module with these little leads, and basically put this thing in a drum bag and just take it anywhere. Set it up. Don't even, put some headphones on or a small speaker system. Just go to the park somewhere or whatever and just have fun, or something with a nice view. So I might do a video on that at some point, just to take advantage of the fact that it is portable and has some cool location to do it, like some people do at times. Like, I'm not gonna do it at the beach; that's too crazy. But something with a nice view. If I have something in mind and something kind of figured out before I get there, because sometimes I don't want to. I mean, it's a beautiful view. I don't want to sit here spend all my time studying this thing and figuring this out and missing out on this incredible view. I'd rather have something somewhat made, ready to go to play, and then play it with the view. Better use of the time, I think. So keep an eye out for that. I'll probably do that at some point when the weather is not so weird. It was sunny today, but we've had a lot of cold weather and rain lately, as you would expect. So it's the right time of year for that. So I'm going to end it there. Thanks again, everybody. I got a good handle on chat this time compared to last night when I was just kind of so focused on the stuff I was messing with. I didn't read it as much as I should have. So, but I still always go back and read through the chat when the video posts and the chat populates, because it usually takes about 12 hours to populate. This is weird. And I always get a kick out of it. So thanks for everybody watching and leaving comments. It's always entertaining, and I do, if I get questions and then I missed or something, I'll try to go in the comments and answer them, or make some kind of comment about the chat that I missed maybe, and try to make it a little more interactive, dynamic, fun stuff, because it's not just watching the video, it's also the information and the questions in the chat and stuff. It's always fun. So thanks again for everybody doing that. And I'm certainly not one to beg or ask people. I mean, if you're already subscribed, I really appreciate it and all that kind of stuff. But as Dave Surcheck proved last night, I actually have super chats now, which I didn't think was turned on. I don't know how long that's actually been turned on. So if you guys feel generous, that'd be great. I'm obviously not going to beg for it or plead for it or whatever, but it is a cool thing to have there, and as most of us have limited time and limited funds, it's nice to have a little extra scratch to invest in some other gear for the shows. But I would never, be a pest or be annoying about it, because I think people do that too much, or obnoxious. But it is there now. I see it down there. There's a little dollar sign down there, which is pretty sweet. I didn't even notice that until Dave sent one last night. That was really nice. But no obligation, just it's there if people feel good about stuff and want to support. I didn't buy anything on Black Friday because I'm broke. Just got this weird job situation right now. I'm just trying to get something lined up. But once I get more money coming in, I'll just be buying stuff like a fool all over again. But anyway, that's it. My little spiel. It was a shock to me. I just saw this yellow banner come up and I go, whoa. I didn't think Super Chats was turned on. So it's kind of fun. But anyway, thanks everybody. I'll see you around. And those of you in the Harbor Jams thing, I will see you in the chat at Harbor Jams. And we'll take care of the... I'll probably get mine in as usual late, because I'm still not sure what I'm going to do. I've got kind of it figured out, but we'll see how my sleep thing goes, and I have to get this uploaded at some point. But thanks everybody. Catch you later.